All right, we're back today to talk about tomatoes. They are the sweetheart of vegetable gardening. It's the plant that everybody wants to grow and wants to have a harvest, hopefully the earliest. So people are looking to have tomatoes by July 4th. If you're doing that, then you're winning. However, there's some key things to know about the varieties that you're choosing, the types of tomatoes that you get to choose from. Something I want to really make clear is there are two major distinctions between different tomato types. There's indeterminate varieties and there's determinate varieties. What that means is the indeterminate varieties grow really tall. They grow to an indeterminate height, meaning they can continue to grow and produce prolifically all season long. Now, determinate tomatoes, they are varieties that will grow to a determined height, meaning they will set their fruit at a height and they will produce truckloads of tomatoes all at once. These are great for canning purposes. If you're looking to create a batch to do canning, determinate varieties work really well for that. In addition to that, they also work great as patio varieties. We grow determinate tomato varieties in cages and in pots so that you can set them and leave them on your patio throughout the course of the season. There's different types of tomatoes that you can choose from with indeterminate and determinate. So some great examples would be like a cherry tomato. There are varieties that are indeterminate, which is my favorite, and that's the Super Sweet 100. This is my favorite cherry tomato because it produces all summer long. Normally I'm starting to get tomatoes by about the second week in July, and they'll produce all the way up until I get a frost. The Super Sweet 100 has the perfect cherry-sized tomato, great flavor, and it can be used for loads of things. So this is my favorite cherry tomato, but there's so many varieties to choose from. This just happens to be a very good producer that's an indeterminate variety. With the Roma tomatoes, another group of tomatoes, these are the paste type tomatoes. You can also use these for salsa, but more of like a diced tomato that you'll use. This is fresh salsa. It is one of my absolute favorite Romas, and they work great. So this is one for salads, for salsas, for sauces. The Roma tomato category is not going to normally get as tall as an indeterminate variety like the cherry tomatoes, but they will produce really well on clusters of fruit throughout the course of the season. Another category of tomato are the hybrids. Now, this is the largest category of tomatoes. You have a lot of varieties to choose from, and why they've developed the hybrids is so that they're more disease resistant. So you're going to notice that when you're shopping with us, we have signs that show the differences between all of the different diseases that they'll be resistant to, and these are the most disease resistant varieties. The number one popular, the Jetstar and the Celebrity, they're known for their highest amount of disease resistance, and they produce prolifically throughout the season. They are indeterminate varieties, so they will grow quite large throughout the course of the season. One that's gaining in popularity, this red Deuce, it's a determinate variety, produces great baseball-sized fruits all season long. With a determinate height, it's a little bit more manageable in smaller gardens or in smaller spaces. Now, where did all these tomatoes come from? Well, they come from the Heirloom series of tomatoes. These are varieties that have the amazing flavors and the unique shapes and colors. But these guys, whenever you plant any type of tomato, you do want to remove the bottom sets of leaves. So you're actually going to remove these off the stem. These hair roots that are on the stem right now will actually develop into full-on roots. So we're going to plant this about 4 inches deep. And when you plant these deeper, you're just going to dig kind of a depression down into that pot. You're not trying to compact the soil, you're trying to just kind of make space for it so that we can get that nice and deep so that it can root in right off the sides of those stems. Kind of reach in there deep, set the plant down. Now we've got it set in there. We'll just kind of tuck the soil back in around it. Want to keep that soil nice and loose so that it's not compacted, and that is nicely planted. When you're planting tomatoes in containers, you always want to consider the size of container. This is about a 5-gallon container. That's the minimum size that you should really plant any tomato plants in, because they're going to fill the root volume of that container quite quickly. And most often they're going to need some type of a cage. So if you do plant in a smaller pot, they will likely blow over or tip over if they don't have enough sturdy base on them. So a 5-gallon or larger, this is kind of the minimum size that I would plant a tomato in on a patio. In the ground, follow the same rules there of planting it deeper, covering it up to the stem and letting the roots develop off of it. But there's a difference in what you fertilize with. So when you're fertilizing in a container, I really like these control release pellets. This is clean. Every time that you water, it gets fertilized by releasing nutrition to the plants, and it doesn't have any odor, and it's not going to leave any staining on a deck or on a patio. Something like tomato tone, I love. This is a great garden fertilizer. So in the ground, this works best. If you use it in a container, you're going to smell it, and you're likely going to have some staining that could happen by leaching through the container on your deck or your patio. So be mindful of that. But I really like tomato tone. When I plant my tomatoes in my garden, in the ground at home, this is what I use because it's a chicken waste product. And so it's an organic option to fertilize your tomato plants throughout the course of the season. So make sure that you're feeding your tomato plants so that they will in turn feed you. It's one of the most critical things to do to create new growth, to create blossoms, and ultimately fruit development. This is one of my favorite things to grow on my patio every year, are my tomato plants. I grow some on the patio and some in the garden. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do, and I hope you have harvest before the 4th of July. Now, if you're getting ready to plant your tomato garden, you're in luck. This is the right time. Normally, you want to be planting in the Midwest after May 10th. That's our permanent frost-free date. And so that way it ensures that the ground temperatures are above 50 degrees, and then you're ready to go to plant your tomatoes into the garden. If you don't have time to get them started in the garden, you can also come to Family Tree. You can pick up a patio planter, something that's already growing and ready for you to grow on your porch or your back patio. Or if all else fails, get one of our cherry tomato hanging baskets. They're loaded with fruit and ready to harvest. You can have the first tomatoes of the neighborhood and of the season. Happy gardening and grow some big tomatoes.